You need to know the difference between stories that are mysteries and stories that are thrillers, because nothing hacks off an audience or a reader faster than thinking they're reading or watching one type of story, only to get whiplash 30 pages in and realize it's a different kind of story. They liked the story you started telling. You teased them with one story, only to give them something else. You made promises at the beginning, and then you broke them. Shame on you. And if the reader decides to get all the way through your screenplay, they're just gonna be mad the whole time because you suckered them in. They thought they were reading a mystery, only to find out you really wanted to tell a thriller. Yeah, they're gonna be mad. So let's not make them mad. To be clear, we are talking about types of stories, not that awful G word that gets applied to stories, which I don't even like to speak out loud. That kind of label has to do with marketing and award shows. It has nothing to do with what kind of story you're actually telling. And while you might think that this is a horror movie and this is a revenge flick, nope, this is a mystery. This is a thriller. John Wick's also a Western, but that's a different video. And you might think that these are kids' movies. Nope, mystery and thriller. Or that these are just superhero movies. Nope, mystery and thriller. In fact, most stories have either a thriller or mystery element, and you have to know which one you have so you can make sure you're delivering the goods. Because if you're not delivering what the audience is expecting, they're not gonna like your story. So what exactly is a mystery and what's a thriller? For review, and for those of you new to the channel, welcome by the way, a story is about someone who wants something badly, is having trouble getting it, and they get it or they don't. And stories, at least for movies and TV shows, are what takes place in the second act. And if you don't understand the things I just said, there's other videos on this channel that will help you out, and there's some links below that may be helpful to you. I'm gonna pull them apart just a little bit, but we're staying on this mystery and thriller train. So a story is about someone, one main character. And every once in a while, there will be a story with multiple protagonists. It's possible, but fairly rare. The bulk of stories have one main character, and it's important to put a pin in that as we talk about mystery and thriller stories. So remember, one main character. The second pin is a story is about a main character who wants something badly. So the goal of the protagonist is important in distinguishing between mysteries and thrillers. The goals of mysteries are generally about who. The goals of thrillers are generally about how. And I'll circle back to that. And the third pin, there's one other thing that's helpful to understand when talking about mystery and thriller stories before I get into exactly what those stories include. And that's the types of tension that you can use in a story to keep the audience engaged. And there's essentially three. One, A equals C. The audience knows exactly what the main character knows. When the main character learns things, we learn things. And there might be moments where one of us knows more than the other, but not for very long. The second type of tension, A is greater than C. In this case, the audience knows more than the main character. And this is also called dramatic irony. Now, it's slightly more complicated than that, but for now, the gist is one type of tension you can use is the audience knows more than the main character. And the third type of tension, you can probably guess, A is less than C. And this is where the audience knows less than the main character. Now, of these three, this one is the weakest type of tension to use because it's the most intellectual and the least emotional for the audience, which makes it hard for the audience to stay engaged over the long haul because storytelling is all about emotion. There are ways around this one, but I'll get to that. Okay, so we have one protagonist, a clear goal, and three types of tension at our disposal. Now, what is a mystery and what is a thriller? In a mystery, the main character takes the role of a detective. It doesn't mean that they have to be a literal detective. Sometimes they are. Most of the time they aren't, but they're doing detective-like things. So that's our protagonist. Now, what do they want? Well, usually they're looking for a specific answer to a puzzle of some kind. Who did it? Who is the victim? Where is the victim? What did they take from the museum or the bank or whatever it is? Typically, these are puzzles that begin with who, where, what, or when. So for a mystery, so far, we've got a main character who's trying to solve a puzzle, and last, in mystery stories, the audience is, for the bulk of the story, on equal footing with the protagonist, meaning we learn stuff as they learn stuff. They want to know who the killer is, we want to learn who the killer is. As we inch closer to the identity of the killer, the protagonist inches closer to the identity of the killer. The most common puzzles revolve around who did it, or something closely related, and the protagonist is trying to fill in the missing information. And they fill in that missing information at the end of the second act. Not the end of the movie, at the end of the second act. But a thriller does not have a detective as the main character, or anyone else in a detective role as the protagonist. If there is a detective, they are a supporting character, or maybe a string character at best. The protagonist of a thriller is usually a victim or a criminal. Now, they might be both victim and criminal, but one of those identities takes precedent. So that's our protagonist, but what do they want? Well, in the case of a thriller, the goal can be practically anything. To escape, to do a heist, to kill an enemy, to track down someone, or avoid being tracked down, or avoid being killed, or thwart the heist. The goal itself depends on if they are the victim or the criminal, but what is crucial is that the goal is personal to the victim or the criminal. They are personally invested in achieving whatever goal they're setting out to achieve. And the third piece we need, the type of tension in thrillers, well, the audience typically knows less than the protagonist, but more than the supporting characters in the story. So we're kind of in between on the knowledge scale. And as a result, thrillers primarily revolve around how. How will the victim or the criminal get away? Or how will they accomplish their task? And we don't know how because the protagonist hasn't let us in on all of their plans. But at the same time, we're worried for the protagonist because we know things that they don't know. We see what their enemies are doing to thwart their plans. So if you aren't sure what kind of story you're dealing with, one kind of test you can do is to answer this question. At what point does the audience know who the antagonist is? If the audience knows at the end of the second act when the puzzle's been solved, then it's a mystery. If the audience knows at the end of the first act, before the protagonist starts trying to accomplish their quest, okay, then it's more than likely a thriller. So let's put some legs on this with some quick examples, and I referred to them earlier. Silence of the Lambs is widely viewed as a horror film, or even a thriller, if we're talking about that nasty G word. But it is, at its core, a mystery. Clarice Starling, an FBI detective, is trying to find the identity of Buffalo Bill. Who is Buffalo Bill? And we learn about Buffalo Bill as Clarice learns about Buffalo Bill. Yes, I know there's Hannibal Lecter, but he's in the movie for literally about 20 minutes. It's Clarice's story, and she's after Buffalo Bill, and she discovers the identity of Buffalo Bill at the end of the second act, which is what we are also concerned about. Who is Buffalo Bill? Silence of the Lambs is a mystery at its core. John Wick, on the other hand, has John Wick as the protagonist, a killer, a criminal, and he is after the guy who killed his dog. There are things that John knows that we don't know. He understands the world he is in, we don't. He knows where the chop shop is. He knows where secret stashes are kept. He has resources we didn't know about, and we keep finding them out as the story goes along. And all the while we're wondering, how is John Wick going to get to Yosef? Because we also know who Yosef is and who his dad is. And we learn what they're trying to do to slow down and try to stop John Wick from completing his task. And this knowledge makes us excited for the ride and worried about the outcome. John Wick is a thriller, and we are not concerned about who John is after. We know who he's after. There is no puzzle to solve here, but we are concerned with how John is going to get his vengeance. And let me quickly run through the others I noted. Zootopia. Will Judy Hopps figure out who is behind making predators go savage? She does at the end of the second act. It's a mystery. Aladdin. How will Aladdin, a street rat criminal, fool everyone with the help of a genie to win the heart of a princess and stop Jafar? How will he do it? He only has 3 wishes. It's a thriller. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Will Steve Rogers find out who is leading Hydra and what they are planning? Yep, at the end of the second act. Classic mystery. Infinity War. How will Thanos, a genocidal titan, beat the Avengers and get all the Infinity Stones? He knows more than we do, but we know a few things he doesn't, because we see how the Avengers are trying to stop him. It's a thriller. So if you start your story and you set it up as like a mystery, but the mystery gets solved around 40 pages into your 105-page screenplay, okay, you just lied to the reader. The reader was expecting a mystery that was going to last for the bulk of the movie, or to say it another way, a mystery that was going to last for the entire second act. But you didn't deliver that. The answer to the mystery must come at the end of the second act, not sooner, and definitely not later. Or if you've set up a mystery, but your screenplay focuses on how a character is going to accomplish something instead of focusing on the actual solving of the mystery, okay, then you only think you have a mystery. You're actually writing a thriller. And chances are you're promising things to the audience that you're not giving them. So give the audience what you're promising. But there's two quick things I need to note that will help you figure out and craft your mystery or thriller stories. Quick thing number one, mystery stories are more intellectual and less emotional for the audience. But storytelling, again, is all about engaging the emotions of the audience. So if you're writing a mystery, you have to do some storytelling things to keep the audience more engaged. One way to do that is to have a lot of reversals along the way. The protagonist thinks one thing, but then learns something that contradicts what they thought they knew, so they have to go a new direction. So twists, turns, reversals, you need more of them than you might normally think you need in a mystery. Something else you can do for a mystery is to include a love interest for your main character. We all understand the emotional pull of romantic relationships, and as long as it's believable, this will help pull the audience through your mystery story. Quick thing too, for thriller stories, the second act is all about how will the protagonist do whatever they're trying to do, right? I mean, that's what the second act is all about. But the third act is also a mini thriller. How will the protagonist get away? Or how will the protagonist kill the person they've been hunting? The second act was how will they find them? The third act is how will they kill them? Or how will they get away? That kind of thing. So thrillers typically have a thriller second act and a thriller third act. Mysteries, however, have a mystery second act, as we've pointed out, or, obviously wouldn't be a mystery, but they often have a thriller third act. So in Silence of the Lambs, will Clarice find the identity of Buffalo Bill? Yes, at the end of the second act she does. But now, how will she make it out of the house alive? The third act is a thriller. So whether you're writing a mystery or a thriller, you'll more than likely have a thriller element as your third act. If you want to learn more about story structure, which can really help you out as you craft stories, there are links below that can help, or you can start by watching this. If you found value, don't forget about all the fun buttons below, comment about what was helpful, and whenever you tell a story, be sure you tell a story that matters. See you later.